I've been working on campaigns for about 5 or 6 years now, on a variety of campaigns, and these are electoral, of course. And I've worked for both candidates and organizations in the past. I've done a Senate race in Maryland. I worked on a mayoral race in Maryland. So I do have experience in Maryland, and also working on presidentials around the country. Sure. And so on the majority of campaigns, I've been involved on the field side. So what that is it's all manners of voter contact. So that goes from making phone calls to drum up support directly to voters, as well as sending out mail, making strategic decisions in terms of who it is that we're going to talk to, who are the most persuadable voters, and then deciding come election day who do we need to push out and vote, and who's not going to vote without a touch or a phone call from us. So right now I work for AFSCME, which is a labor union which represents state, municipal, and county employees around the country. Well, I mean, I think that the main key is that in the labor movement you get to be more focused. You realize that you are not entirely the campaign, and so you make a strategic decision as to how best you can help the campaign. And you're very, very focused on specific aspects. You don't have to worry about things like fundraising, which takes up an enormous amount of candidate time. You don't have to worry about scheduling. You just get to focus on the message which is most important and will resonate with the voters the most and persuade them to support candidates. And so, yeah. I would say one of the aspects is that you're freed by not being a part of the campaign, and it allows you to do a lot of different things in terms of messaging. You can engage in what some people would argue, would be more negative politics, highlighting many of the reasons why people should not support a candidate, and you generally don't receive the sort of blowback because you're not the candidate. And so oftentimes when you see independent expenditures, and the reason that I think oftentimes people are so opposed to them is because generally they're going to be negative in nature because because the person standing behind them is not someone that someone's going to go out and vote for on election. Certainly. However, generally, it's responding in terms of attacks that are resonating. So if you can have two independent expenditures which are going head to head, one responding to attacks on the other side, generally it's thought of in terms of through polling and through testing of messaging, what sort of attacks are resonating most with the candidate that you're supporting. And if you want to respond to that, then you do. So the labor movement sort of separates generally most of its political work into two buckets. Primarily, you have the member-to-member side, in which labor organizations can communicate with their own members and members within the household to inform them and give them information about certain candidates and let them know where they stand on the issues. And then you have the independent expenditure side, which allows labor movements to communicate with the general public at large. And so when we think about it in terms of membership and general public. And the way that those are funded is actually in two separate manners. In terms of member contact, that's actually funded through membership dues, and then communications with the general public are funded through contributions which are made by our members to our PAC. My concern in regards to that is that the Supreme Court seems to have taken the opinion that businesses themselves are voters. I understand the concerns about labor unions contributing in terms of independent expenditures in that regard. However, in my mind, what it is these are members who are willingly contributing dues to advocate for their issues, and I think that as you brought up, it's definitely a slippery slope in which you have businesses who are going to be contributing and spending money on campaigns and advocating messages without an up or down vote even from their shareholders. Well, I think primarily my understanding is that they're focusing on legislation to increase transparency. One of the things that's done oftentimes, and you'll definitely see it on campaigns, when you see these advertisements, is that groups will not say, this ad was sponsored by AT&T or this ad was sponsored by R.J. Reynolds. Everyone will contribute to, you'll have multiple businesses which will contribute to a single PAC, and then you'll see that it's for concerned businesses or Patriots for America or some sort of front group which sounds generally innocuous. And what that allows these businesses to do is it allows them to advocate messages which they support without getting the blowback of pissing off 49% of your customers. And I think that it's very, very important in terms of reining this in. I think that unfortunately with the decision as it stands, in my mind it's the most effective tool that we do have to ensuring that businesses don't spend their unlimited funds dominating politics. Well, there's definitely a lot of research sort of being done as to what the most effective what the most effective form of communication is. It's generally thought that it is television because within that medium you're able to actually see the candidate and develop a sort of connection with them and get an idea of them. And just by sheer nature, so many people watch television that you're really able to reach massive audiences. I think in terms of actually persuading a voter, that voter contact in which someone comes to the door, you have a discussion, you develop that personal relationship, and it's a one-on-one contact. I think that's also incredibly effective. And there are different schools of thought, and many people differ, and there's a lot of interesting sort of research going on right now to determine really which is the most effective. I think that greater transparency would be the first thing that I would do. I think removing sort of these front groups and these PACs, which have silly names and sort of obscure who exactly contributed to it, I think would be a wonderful way of doing it. I think that in the same way that elected officials have to say, my name is such and such and I approve this message, I do agree that you should have CEOs saying, my name is such and such, and this is brought to you by our corporation. I think that would go a long way, and I think that while large corporations do, it is in their interest to sway politicians to help them out. I think that they're also very concerned about their customer base and generally don't want to get out in front of controversial issues.